The wicked shall cease from troubling. The weary shall be at rest. All of the saints of the ages will sit at his feet and be blessed. And I'm going where the wicked shall cease from troubling. The weary shall be.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Jermaine, and today I want to talk about the topic of anger. Now, anger is a very powerful emotion because anger has a way of sapping the joy right out of an individual. And anger, believe it or not, is not particular to any type of person, a socioeconomic income status, age, generation, etc., so forth, faith, belief system, anything, or faith or non-faith, believers and non-believers, Christians and non-Christians, Christians and Muslims, Christians and Jews, or Christians and Buddhists, Christians and all kinds of other different faiths. So it has no respect to any faith-based person or generation or age or anything of that nature. But it is a serious issue that I believe affects all of us in some kind of way. And one of the most important principles of being within our faith, within Christianity, is learning how to channel that anger and really understanding where it comes from. Because when you can understand it at its root, then you will know how to not take it so personal and to let it go and to let it not affect you. And that's the prize of all of this, right? Is to figure out ways in which you could use the anger for something productive, right? I'll take, for instance, this past week at the gym. I am notorious for doing gym circulation, right? That means going from one machine, working out from one machine and going to the next machine. It's basically like a circuit. I'm pretty sure more of you guys are familiar with what a circuit is. Well, on this particular day, I was doing a circuit and it did involve the bench press machine. Well, I had a lot of weights on it. I had 4 plates on each side. and so I did my set and then I rotated to something else. But when I came back around to that weight machine, I noticed that the weights were not only taken off, but someone else was on my machine with some other weights, some other light weights on there. And this bothered me, and I'm going to admit that this did truly make me upset. It made me angry. And I was like, my blood is all boiling and stuff of that nature. And then, because I'm really serious about weightlifting, right? And I had a lot of weights. I had 8 plates total on this bench press bar, and those were removed. So that means I had to go to another machine and I had to stack them back up. So I said to God, I said, okay, is it really that serious? Could I not go to another machine? There is another machine, and stack the weights. It won't take that long to put those weights back. But even with that, even still with the frustration, how do I use this frustration, right, to be productive with it? And if you notice, the great martyrs in history especially pertaining to the civil rights movement, have used anger and frustration for productive purposes. Like Martin Luther King Jr. He used the violence that was happening to African Americans in the South with segregation and enforcing segregation. He used nonviolent means to combat violence. He used light to tackle the darkness. So going back to my weights, I was like, you know what? It did, that anger did give me a bit of adrenaline, I'm not gonna lie. But it actually helped me to get a very good pump, energizing my muscles on my last set of the bench press. That's what it means to productively take anger and channel it into something productive. So usually anger happens as a result of an action that someone has did to you, or an event that has transpired against you, and you want to not only know why that happened. In some cases you want to respond, and you want to respond hard, right? You've heard of some people, like maybe one of the housewives, or maybe someone out in the streets, they say, honey, I can go from 0 to 100, you better watch it. Or 0 to 1,000. Or, I'm about to give my 2 cents. 2 cents out of a whole dollar, right, is little to nothing. When you don't channel your anger productively, you get nothing out of it. And when you use your anger, right, darkness, its negativity, to respond to negative darkness, you get nothing. Matter of fact, you start to deplete your own joy, your own sense of worth, your own sense of mind and rationality as it pertains to the situation. Because using your rational mind is using your supernatural mind, realizing that you're a light in the midst of darkness. How can you find hope? How can you find joy? How can you find an alternative in light of what has transpired to make you angry? That's the test. And many times what I find is that when I use that anger in a way that's productive for being a vessel of light and hope and giving alternatives, it's like, wow, thank you for the anger, because now as a result of that anger, this blessing has occurred. This, out of this situation, out of this trial, out of this habitance, if you will, a blessing has transpired. And believe it or not, people are always watching you. How will he respond? Even the person that is a vessel of negativity, of hate and anger, that person is watching how you will respond. And misery loves company. They want nothing more than to bring you into the pit of their darkness, gloom, and mental illness. Because when you haven't learned how to deal with your anger on a rational level, you're stuck in the dark pit. And you really have lost your mind. that has a negative effect not only upon your health, it has a negative effect upon your relationships, no matter whether they are good relationships or whether they are enforced relationship with colleagues, coworkers, etc., so forth, family members, or whoever else. When you don't deal with the anger, then it has a way of keeping you in the dark and in the pit, and everything is affected by it. Anger can kill you. So you ask me today, how do you cope? Child, let it go. Let it go. You know, one of the things that God gave me when dealing with anger, He gave me a popular verse to which many of you have read it, and it's Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. And it reads thus so: "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against the authorities, against cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places." And evil in high places is what that means. So the next time that something happens to you, I'm going to put you to the test. And I want you to, in that moment when it happens, to quote Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. Meditate on it, because you will feel a sense of anger. You're human. But meditate on it. After you meditate on it, then ask God, how can you use this energy to be a beacon of light, to find solutions, to be productive, in order that you might retain your joy. That's the difference between someone who walks in lightness and someone who walks in darkness. And Christians can walk in darkness. What will you choose this day? Will you choose to recall scriptures and follow the ways of the Lord with channeling your anger? Or will you tap into the way the world does it, cussing and fussing, being vengeful and spite and negative and petty, like the Real Housewives? We've got to be different. We've got to set the example. We've got to be Christ-like. It's okay to be affected by anger, but it's not okay to use it in a way that only puts you in the darkness and steals your joy. If the joy of the Lord is your strength, if the joy of the Lord is your strength, then anger should have no part with you. Learn to let it go and to let God flood in. Take a breath. Take a step back. Inhale and exhale. And quote Ephesians chapter 6, verse 16. I'll see you all next week. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. I'll see you all next week. I look forward to hearing from you. Please subscribe, share the good news. Help me partner in getting the word of God out to all people. I love you. God bless you. Take care.